70 years of montane forest change in Grand Canyon National Park. Resurveying 1935 plots. 1935 survey marker in tree. Scientists walking on a trail through a forest.
My name is John Van Cat, and at the time of the study, I was a special projects ecologist for Grand Canyon National Park. And we were working on a project to review all the research that had been done on forest ecology in the park. And in doing that, one of the members of our team mentioned one day at a meeting that she asked something about 1935 information, 1935 plot data, 1935 photographs. And she said, well, actually, I found out about it on my own. I came into work one day, and on the loading dock were some boxes. And she was sort of curious, so she looked inside the boxes, and she'd found photographs from 1935 in the boxes. And she thought, these are to be thrown out? And she thought, this is foolish, because they showed vegetation of the park. And so she talked to other people about this, and within a few days they also found inside the building, not yet ready to be thrown out, data sheets, vegetation data sheets from 1935. When we found out about this, we decided to shift the focus of our work, and we decided to, this was a unique opportunity. Clearly it was the oldest data set of its type that was an intensive data set. In other words, it covered many plots in a relatively small area. And part of the reason that the plots were very unique, the Grand Canyon forests have never been disturbed by a major type of disturbance, meaning they've never been logged, they've never been cut and then agriculture carried out in the park. Eventually, we decided that the best way to proceed would be to attempt to relocate and resample as many of the 1935 forested plots as we could. And the reason for that was that the forests we knew had changed. The lack of forest fires, in other words, the exclusion of fire or the suppression of fires by the National Park Service, had changed these forests. And now the park, for the last couple decades, have been trying to reestablish fire as a natural environmental factor in these forests and attempt to return them to a state where they're more sustainable and probably resembled more like what they were when the park was established. Now, the relocation was an interesting, very interesting situation for me to determine how to do this. The best resource that we had was that the 1935 field crew had mapped on a topographic base map from 1927. So I had the 1927 map next to me, and I would have a current topographic map, a digital version obviously, on my computer. So what I did was that I matched up the contour lines from 1927 with the current topographic map, and much to my surprise, they were almost identical. And this enabled us to go and relocate then in a fairly precise way where these plots were. So relocating the plots was one of our tasks. The resampling was another task. And so what we attempted to do there, what we did there, is that we repeated the methods that they did in 1935. In addition to that, we used modern methods of sampling. For example, in sampling the trees, we recorded the species and the diameter of every tree within our plots. In addition to that, we mapped them. So we had a map that we had of the individual trees, and we also put an individually numbered brass tag on the trunk of every tree that we mapped. Ultimately, we resampled 153 of the 191 forested plots. And that sample covered all the major forest types of Grand Canyon. So we had the opportunity to look at while they were in 1935 because of these data sheets, and then compare it to what they are today and see how they had changed during that time span. I've never been to this plot before, but I've got the approximate UTMs on my GPS unit, and it says that the plot that they mapped in 1935 was right here. So I'm going to turn this off now since I'm at the right spot. And what I'll do is that I'll look at the data sheet from 1935, and I'm going to confirm that we are indeed on the exact same spot that they were, or we'll move elsewhere to find a better match. So the results of our study have shown significant change in these forests, but not always change that was expected. Based upon other studies, people always have said that these forests have increased in density. Now, we have found that to be true in low elevation forests, but not in high elevation forests. These have actually decreased in density since 1935. The important things about our findings is that this paints an entirely different picture of what has been going on in these upper elevation forests. Having a different picture allows managers, such as in Grand Canyon National Park, to review some of the management procedures that they had planned to put in place to make sure they take into account this new information. Recently, this study of resampling historical plots from 1935 has been expanded into a different ecosystem, and that's the pinyon juniper ecosystem. This has been made possible by funding from the Southern Colorado Plateau Network of the National Park Service and also the United States Geological Survey.
Time-lapse of sunset over the Grand Canyon. Produced in association with the Southern Colorado Plateau Inventory and Monitoring Network of the National Park Service and the Northern Arizona University School of Communication. Thanks to John Van Cat, Lori McCarrick, Colleen Hyde, and the staff of Grand Canyon National Park.